Okay, let us start then. So last time we were talking about the first order necessary conditions and their application. Here I will tell one more example. The idea is, see, the first order conditions. These are somewhat. These are necessary conditions. These are somewhat very intuitive. But here there is uh, the concept of the directions that is a bit important. So there you pay attention. So suppose we have one problem like fxy equal to x square y, and we want to optimize that over the square plate that connects 0, 0, 1, 0, 1, 1, that's where we want to do. So okay, so then what you do now, you first find out uh, dxf and dxf and then dyf, that is the partial derivative. Dxf basically means del f by del x, and then equate it to 0, 0, so that why do you do that? Why are you just taking the gradient and equating it to 0? No, according to the first order necessary condition, if there is a minimum or maximum in the interior, then it has to satisfy that the gradient has to be equal to 0. That was FOMC, right? The first order necessary condition. Then you equate it here 2xy, and then okay, so that's 2xy, and then this one is x square. So this is equal to 0, 0. Would x square equal to 0, 0? So would basically mean the conditions, either you have to have x equal to 0, definite, guaranteed x equal to 0, and y can be anything. So the points are like 0t. And so there you see that okay, then there is no interior point, a critical point. So there is no critical point in the interior. So that was the main thing. So immediately you say, okay, fine. There is no critical point. It basically means in the interior, it basically means no maximum or minimum will occur ever in the interior. So all you have to do is that you have to check the boundary. And when you are checking the boundary, do not just check the points of the form 0t. 0t is this one, the left side, okay, the segment that contains 0, 0 to 0, 1. But do not just check it there, you will actually have to check at all the boundary points. Okay, fine, no problem. What else? Now this this example is somewhat, i mean uh, so suitably made. So now using the positivity of the function uh, over the region, over this region, square region, and noticing that if I am at on x-axis or y-axis, okay, so then one of them is 0. So we conclude that at points like 0t or points like t0, these are points of minimum, points of absolute minimum. Okay, these are points of absolute minimum because the function is positive, and here the function is non-negative over the region, and here the function is 0. So that's not a big thing. Plus everything is between 0 to 1, therefore everywhere the function is less than equal to 1, and at the point 1, 1 the function is equal to 1. So it is 1, 1 is the point of absolute maximum. That is fine. These are the things that we can immediately see. Okay, up to this much, up to d, we can see that point 1, 1 is absolute maximum. Now what do I do? Now I am asking, what about the point 1 comma t? So here I have 1 comma t, the point. What about the point 1 comma t? See, when somebody says optimize this in nonlinear problems, it basically means you are supposed to talk about the local minimums and local maximums. What you have done, you have got the absolute minimum and absolute maximum. Now, what about this? And how do I use FONC here? So, what does FONC say? Now, in order to consider FONC, the first what you have to do, you have to write grad f at A. So if this is the point A, so grad f at A, that was what? That was 2xy and x square, and A is 1t, so that would be equal to 2t and 1. That's the I mean, that is the grad f at A. And what is dA, the feasible directions? Now at this point, the set of feasible directions are like this. So what are the feasible directions? Now feasible directions will form, this is the set, it will form like this. X coordinate has to be less than equal to 0. From this point you cannot go right side, and y is anything, you can go up or down, so that's why you can put a star over there. So that's going to be the feasible directions. Otherwise, if you really want to write it precisely, you will write this is the set D equal to D1 D2, such that if you really love writing precisely, very rigorously, D2 belonging to R. If you want to write DA, do not want to write in this shortcut form. I normally write in this shortcut form with the understanding that you understand that actually instead of writing this, I am writing. So for example, instead of continuous, I write CTS with the understanding that, okay, we understand what does it mean. Okay, so what I have gotten, I have found out grad FA and DA. And what does first order necessary condition says? It says if this point is a point of local minimum, then grad f A transpose D should never be negative for, it should never happen. It should never happen for any D in DA. It should never happen. In fact, not for all D, for any D, it should not happen, because I am talking the negation. Okay, so it should never happen. So let's see, what do I have now? 2t1 inner product, compute this 2t1 inner product less than equal to 0 star. Well, see, I can take the first coordinate to be 0, equal to 0, and a second coordinate star. Instead of star, I can take plus minus 1. Then what do I get? The inner product is, if I take minus 1, inner product is negative. If I take plus 1, then this inner product is positive. So if I take 0, 1, I get 1. If I take 0, minus 1, I get minus 1. So what does that mean? Now this point does not satisfy the first order necessary condition to be a minimum, because it is becoming negative for one direction. It also does not satisfy the first order necessary condition to be a local maximum, because it is becoming positive. Okay, so that's what I have written over here. As this inner product is greater than 0, so A is not a local maximum by the first order necessary condition. Similarly, as this inner product is less than 0, this is not a local maximum by first order necessary condition. Similarly, if you take a point A, 1, that like t, 1, so A equal to t, 1. Here also you can talk similarly. That's and proceed similarly and do that. Okay. So this is, yeah.
Sir, why are we finding D of A? Shouldn't we be finding closure of D of A?
Oh, that is closure of DFA, that by first that first order necessary condition, that is true. Here it is closed itself.
Sir, just could you tell a bit about how should we be finding the closure? I don't recall that very properly. If you could just tell in brief.
No, closure basically means the set itself and all possible limit points. For example, let me take this kind of a direction. Okay, suppose that I am at this point and I am looking at a circle. Okay, if I am looking at a circle, let me draw this one first, the circle first. Okay, centered at E1, radius 1. Okay, centered at 1, 0, and the radius is 1. Now, what are the feasible directions that, and the point is A, which is origin, 0, 0. A is origin. This is the point. I am standing at 0, 0. Now, what are the feasible directions at A? That means I want to travel a little bit in that direction and still stay inside the set. So that will be the direction, all possible direction of this form. Okay, that would be greater than 0, and this one is anything. All possible directions like this. What does this mean? This means actually you can travel towards the right half side, except that you are not allowed to travel on the y-axis. What direction is not there? This particular direction is not available. Where d2 is anything. d2 can be positive or negative, plus minus 1 or plus minus 2, anything. Those directions are not available, because the moment you start from 0, 0 and travel along this direction even a little bit, you are outside the circle. Okay. However, if I take D closure, then I will have the whole of, so here what is DA? If I want to write as set notation, then this is the set X, Y, or let me write simply X. I will write in the form X1 bigger than 0, X2 belonging to R. Okay, and union, of course, 0, 0 is included. That is DA. And what is D closure? Now, the D closure is simply the set of all X such that X1 greater than equal to 0 and X2 greater than equal to 0. That means all these Y directions also are included. Because if you
Yes.
take a, understood, na?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay. So yeah, so that is what we are doing. Like in any case, and that, so FONC, by FONC it has to be satisfied, the condition has to be satisfied for all directions in D closure, right? But if I am showing you some directions in D closure itself, here what I am saying now, even some direction, sorry, what I said that was not correct. I said, like, I was saying so in general it is not true that D is equal to D closure, but here for this example that I am talking about, here D closure is equal to D at this A. Here dA is equal to D closure, because that's a closed set actually. I mean, as you can see that D1 is less than equal to 0, D2 belongs to R. So here dA equal to D closure. But that is not an important issue. The important issue is that I have found a direction along which the directional derivative is negative, and I have found another direction along which the directional derivative is positive, and therefore this point cannot be a point of local optimum. Okay, so that is the essential part. So the important part over here is to somehow imagine a direction. Okay, and we will see that. We'll see more examples later. So in that case, so you have to write the final conclusion. Acha, writing this final conclusion in some of your answer script of midsem, I also wrote this comment that whenever you are trying to solve something, fine, you did some solution, everything, but then finally you must write one full sentence. Therefore, this is this. Okay, the full sentence you should, I mean, write that this is what exactly I have found out. This is the solution. The conclusion statement should be there. Okay. So here, for example, the conclusion statement is that the points 0, t and t, 0 are the points of absolute minimum. The point 1, 1 is the absolute maximum, and we do not have any other local optimums. Acha, as I said, I am writing this minimums, maximums, and optimums, but actually those are not correct English. Okay. Here, this is a practice problem. You find some other directions and try to use FONC over here. Okay, there are some second order necessary conditions. So that is more important. What is that? Now here you assume f to be twice continuously differentiable. What is twice continuously differentiable? Now the second order derivatives are continuous in a neighborhood of A. So that's what we understand. Twice continuously differentiable at a point A means that, and on an open set means in that open set, because the set is open anyway. So here, suppose that necessary conditions are always like this. Suppose that A is a point of local minimum or local maximum, like this. Then such and such conditions must hold. So that those are the necessary. It is necessary that these conditions should hold. Okay. So similarly, the statement goes like that. That suppose it is a local minimum. I am only talking about minimum. Suppose that you have a direction D satisfying the condition that grad f transpose D, that is the directional derivative. Somewhere I may simply write this as d f a, that is the directional derivative. Okay, is equal to 0. Then you must have, okay, we must have D transpose HA D greater than equal to 0. That means the Hessian matrix must behave like a positive semi-definite matrix in that direction. That's the first necessary condition. In particular, if A is in T interior, okay, then HA must be a positive semi-definite matrix. This is a necessary condition. Translation to the single variable translation would say, in the second one, would say that the second derivative is greater than equal to 0. So that's what it would translate. Okay, the second item. Anyway, so we are assuming that A is a local minimum. So in that case, what we know, and D belongs to DA. Here I am not taking D closure, but I am taking D in dA. Now that D is in dA, that means in that direction I can travel a little bit and still stay inside the set. So we assume that A and A plus TD, why TD? Let me write delta D. So that's better. Huh? So there is an amount delta. I can travel that far in the direction of D, and this is inside T. So this is the first thing, because by definition, it is given to be a feasible direction. I can travel a little bit. And then what? Now then I can apply Taylor's theorem, the first one. What does first one say? The first one says for any point, so if you take point, let me take a point R greater than 0, less than equal to delta. Let me take R. Then f of A plus RD is equal to f of A plus, here grad FA transpose RD, okay, plus RD transpose HA RD. So that's what I mean. RD you can view as X by 2 factorial actually, plus I used R, I should not have. Okay, let me use capital R for this. What is this? R of RD. Now R of RD means it is the remainder term, the error term. So this is Taylor 1. So here what is given to me, this particular thing is 0. So this is equal to 0. This is given to me by hypothesis. So what do I see? And it is also given to me that A is a point of minimum. So that means A plus RD minus FA is greater than equal to 0. So what do I get? Now I get the following. I get RD transpose HA RD by 2 factorial plus the remainder term, error term. This is greater than equal to 0. This is equal to FA plus RD minus FA, which is greater than equal to 0. This I am getting. And what about the remainder term? What does this Taylor series says about the remainder term? Now, remainder term limit, it is negligible compared to the, because it is twice we are taking after the second degree terms, limit are going to 0, this RRD. So this is higher order compared to the second order. So this error term order is higher than the degree 2. Okay, so that means if you divide it by degree 2 and take limit r going to 0, you will get this equal to 0, equal to 0. Okay, equal to 0, equal to 0, equal to. Okay, so that is given to me by the Taylor series. So what do I do? These are the only things that are given. So I apply that. So I divide it by what? Now I divide it by R square. See, D norm square, D. Acha, oh, acha. That is one part I did not say. I am trying to prove the first item. See, remember that D equal to 0 is allowed in a DA. So I have to make a small case before saying that if D is equal to 0, then I don't have anything to say. Because D is the 0 vector, then D transpose HAD is greater than equal to 0. That is obvious. So I am assuming D is a non-zero vector in the directions available. D is a non-zero feasible direction available at A. So in that case, D is fixed and D norm square is a non-zero number. So it is basically what I am saying now, the error term capital R RD divided by R square is actually going to 0. So that D norm square is a fixed term, it is not playing any role. So all you do, you divide this whole thing by R square. Okay, so that is also greater than equal to 0, and then take limit. Limit you will take, but here what you will get now, you will get D transpose HA D divided by 2 plus here you will get RRD by R square. That is greater than equal to 0, and take limit now, limit R going to 0. So that will this whole thing, okay, will turn out to be, if you take the limit, this will say what is the limit? Now limit is actually, if you take limit, then limit is this one only, D transpose HA D by 2. So this will, if you have a sequence of numbers which are greater than equal to 0, where every term is greater than equal to 0 and its limit exists, then the limit itself will be greater than equal to 0. Therefore, and here the limit is D transpose HA D by 2. So that's how the first item is proved. Okay. The second item comes because the feasible directions available there is nothing but Rn. Okay, because A belongs to T interior, then this basically means, this implies dA is Rn. So all possible directions are available there. So it basically says for all non-zero, or yeah, for all non-zero directions, D transpose HAD is greater than equal to 0. So all possible directions, it is D transpose HAD is greater than equal to 0. Does that make it positive semi-definite? No, 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 not yet, not yet. If I know that for all complex vector x, x transpose Ax is greater than equal to 0, then that is by definition positive semi-definite. But here what I am doing now, for all vector D in Rn, I am saying D transpose HAD is greater than equal to 0. That is not the definition. But what I already know is that HA itself, the Hessian matrix itself, is a symmetric matrix. Okay. So what I know, it is a symmetric matrix, and I know that for all real vectors this is happening. That is an equivalent definition for positive semi-definiteness, as we have already shown. Okay, we have already said about that. So here in item 2. Okay. Acha, also for second item, if you are trying to prove the second item, look in the first item what has been given. Now it has been given that the directional derivative of f at a is equal to 0, and in second item it was not given, but that follows because it is given that it is a point of local minimum, and we have already shown that at a f1c, right? At a point of local minimum, and if it is a point of interior, then the gradient must be equal to 0. So that also follows, and it happens that HA is symmetric, and for all D in Rn it satisfies, therefore it is positive semi-definite matrix. But this is necessary condition. Fine. Necessary conditions are of course not sufficient conditions. Necessary conditions are only used for short listing. Okay, that is the general thing. So you would require some sufficient conditions. So here are some sufficient conditions for interior case. So this is second order sufficient condition for interior case. Okay. Okay. So suppose that, so because it is sufficient condition, you will be saying like this. Suppose that I have a critical point. Here are the conditions. If they are satisfied, I would conclude that it is a point of local minimum. That kind of conditions. So the first condition is that item A is that if HA is a positive definite matrix, then A is a strict local minimum. Now wait a minute. Remember, we are talking about the anterior case. Anterior case. What are the assumptions? Now, function is twice differentiable, and we are talking about anterior case, which basically means I have assumed that A is a point of anterior, and it is a critical point. What is critical point? Now, critical point means the points at which the derivative is zero, gradient is zero, or f dash is zero, whatever you want to say, they are all the equivalent, same thing. Okay, f dash is row vector. If you take the transpose, what you get is called the gradient vector. Okay, suppose that HA is PD, A belongs to T interior, and grad f A equal to 0. These are the three things that are given. Then you want to show A is strict local minimum. What are you talking now? I am talking about second order sufficient condition, talking about HA. I want to apply Taylor's theorem. If I want to apply Taylor's theorem, I must be applying Taylor's theorem 1, because Taylor's theorem 2 talks about HA plus theta d. It does not talk about HA. Okay, only Taylor's theorem talks about HA plus a remainder term. Okay, so let me write. So what is it? Now, because it is a point of interior, so there will be some epsilon amount, B epsilon A, available inside T. That is fine. And then you consider the segment starting from A to A plus epsilon D, where D is some direction. Okay, here D, like, because A belongs to T naught, D is like any direction, actually non-zero. Take this and take any RD where R less than epsilon. So what do you have now? You have F A plus RD is equal to F A, and because grad F A equal to 0, I am not writing the second term. Then RD transpose HA RD by 2 factorial plus the remainder term RRD, where I know that RRD order is more than second order, like it is more than the degree of kind of. So we do not actually take the word degree and other thing. We simply say limit R going to 0, RRD divided by R square equal to 0. So essentially it means this is of this is a term which behaves like as if it is a higher degree term compared to the second degree term. Okay, doesn't matter. So this is by Taylor 1. Okay, fine. And what else is given to me now? HA is PD. It's given to be a positive definite matrix. Acha, what is positive definite matrix? Properties in a positive definite matrix has eigenvalues all positive. So okay, a positive definite matrix has eigenvalues positive, all positives. So let me take the eigenvalues lambda 1, lambda 2, lambda n. These are the eigenvalues of the Hessian matrix written from smaller to larger. Okay, lambda 1 is the smallest, but all of them are positive, no problem. Okay, is HA symmetric? Na, HA is symmetric. And what do I also know? Now I also know that by spectral theorem, I can choose the corresponding eigenvector to be orthonormal. That is what we say, na, unitary diagonalization, unitarily diagonalizable. So because it is real symmetric, it is actually, I mean, instead of unitary matrix, you can take orthogonal matrix also. Doesn't matter. So you can take the corresponding eigenvectors like x1, x2, xn, and they are orthogonal to each other. You can choose that way. You can choose corresponding eigenvectors in such a way that they form an orthonormal basis for Rn. That's what the spectral theorem for Hermitian matrices says. So here it is symmetric, so Rn. Otherwise, you would say Cn. Okay, complex Cn. Okay, and so what? Now look, D, because these are spanning Rn. This is a basis for Rn span. This is orthonormal basis. Here I am writing orthogonal, like it's okay. Better you write orthonormal, not gonal, orthonormal basis. Orthogonal means orthogonal to each other. Orthonormal, it is basically means each of them has norm 1. So you have normalized of Rn. Fine. Orthonormal basis of Rn. Fine. So what is the D? Now D is a direction. D belongs to Rn, and since it is a orthonormal basis, you can write D as equal to alpha 1 x1. It will be a linear combination of, because it is a basis, right? Alpha n xn. Acha. And in that case, what do you have? Now in that case, D transpose D. What is D transpose D? Now D transpose D, if you take this one, and here by the way, alpha 1 x1, alpha n xn, this alpha 1, alpha n are nothing but real numbers here. In complex, so basically I don't have this bar problem, the complex conjugation problem. So D transpose D would be alpha 1 square plus alpha n square. That's what I will have, right? Alpha 1 square x1 transpose x1 transpose, if you are taking orthonormal, so x1 norm square would be equal to 1. So that's why I am writing this. Okay, no problem. If I want to write that, otherwise normally you would write x1 norm square. Okay, and the cross product terms like x1 transpose x2, x1 transpose x2 will be 0 because they are orthogonal basis, like each vector is pairwise orthogonal. X1 is orthogonal to x2. So the cross vector terms like alpha 1 x1 inner product alpha 2 x2, that will be 0. Okay, so that's why you will only have terms like alpha 1 square x1 norm square, alpha n square xn norm square, but then x1 norm square xn norm square, that's 0. Okay, no problem. And then what happens to HA multiplied by D? Now HA multiplied by D is nothing but HA multiplied by alpha 1 x1 plus alpha n xn. But I know that x1 xn are eigenvectors, so that will be equal to alpha 1 lambda 1 x1 plus alpha n lambda n xn. Okay, fine. Now what happens to D transpose HA D? Now I just have to multiply alpha 1 x1 with this, so that will give me alpha 1 square lambda 1 plus dot alpha n square lambda n. Okay, in a similar way, xn norm square is equal to 1. Okay, and that is definitely greater than equal to alpha 1 square lambda 1 plus dot 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 alpha n square lambda 1. So instead of big lambdas, I have substituted the smallest lambda. So I will get a smaller real number. This is a positive real number. Huh? Alpha 1 square lambda 1, alpha 1 square greater than equal to 0, lambda 1 greater than 0, and alpha n square, that kind of a thing. Okay, and that will be greater than equal to alpha 1 square lambda 1 everywhere lambda 1, and so that is equal to lambda 1 taken common d transpose d, because d transpose d is nothing but alpha 1 square plus alpha 2 square plus dot 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 alpha n square, that is d transpose d. So what are you seeing now? Acha, this d transpose HAD is greater than equal to the smallest eigenvalue multiplied by d transpose d. So that is one term, one thing that you have found out for positive definite matrix. So I can simply write down that is equal to, so I am coming from the first line. This is FA plus RD minus FA is greater than equal to R square d transpose HA. This is actually equal to R square by 2 factorial. I put it here. Now this one I am replacing by, this is equal to equal plus RD, but this is greater than equal to R square by 2 factorial. This is what? Now lambda 1 d transpose d plus RD. Okay, now what else is given to you? Now it is given to me that RRD, this limit, what is given to me, now this RRD by R square limit R going to 0 is equal to 0. This is also given to me. Acha, R going to 0, RRD by the remainder term by R square equal to 0. It means for all small values of small r, this value of RRD by R square can be less than lambda 1 by 4. Lambda 1 is a positive number, so I am taking this as my epsilon. So by saying this, limit is equal to 0, taking epsilon equal to lambda 1 by 4, I will get a delta, so that whenever R absolute value is less than delta, I will get this value is less than lambda 1 by 4. Okay, so then what is going to happen is that, and then so after that I divide it by this d transpose d, anyway I will divide. So I will divide it by RD norm square. So basically this means R square d transpose d, that will be divided. So what do I get? Now I will get, here also I will divide. This term will give me lambda 1 by 2, and this term for all small r, this can at best be lambda 1 by 4 absolute value, plus minus whatever, at best be that much, and therefore this whole thing will be strictly bigger than 0. So what does it say? Now this says for all r with absolute value less than delta. What is that delta? Now like what did I use some delta here? No, I have not some use. So basically taking epsilon as lambda 1 by 4, there exists a value delta, so that for all r with absolute value less than delta, I will have capital R RD by R square absolute value less than lambda 1 by 4. So for all those r, for all those small r, I will have this one, that f a plus rd minus fa is greater than 0. Okay, so that is the case. So that basically says that if a is strictly less than things in the neighborhood, any point in the neighborhood. Okay, so given a point in the neighborhood, you would have considered that direction and you would have said it is strictly less than this. That is how you prove it. Okay, so this is the proof that it says the first one, that if HA is PD, so that's how it is. Okay, what is the second one? The second one says if HX, have I written it correctly in the statement? It says if HX is a PSD matrix, is positive semi-definite in a neighborhood, then A is a local minimum. You don't say strict local minimum. Strict local minimum will not happen. You can take constant function, everything is 0. So you don't get PSD matrix at all. Okay, you don't get PD matrix at all. Okay. So how this will follow? And this will follow from directly the Taylor 2, because Taylor 2 would say that FA plus X minus FA, and because you are at a critical point, FA, you are at a critical point, so grad part is there, it is just equal to H A plus theta X, where for some theta between 0 and 1. Okay, this is the remainder term, that is, I mean, this is remainder term included, that theta X is for that. And because you already know that not just HA plus theta X, like you will have this also, theta X transpose theta X by 2, this one. And because you already know that I mean theta is between 0 and 1, it's a positive number, and it is already given that X transpose H A plus theta X X is positive. Why? Now Hx is positive, I mean in a neighborhood, so H of A plus theta X will also be PSD. It's a positive semi-definite matrix, so it follows that this is greater than equal to 0. So that is how. Okay, if you want to write down very rigorously, you will have to use a I mean a lot of epsilon delta, I mean few more, one yeah, so you can write that. And item C, what does item C? Item C says if Hx is a positive definite matrix in a neighborhood, but at A it need not be positive definite, because if it is positive definite at A, then it is a strict local minimum, directly you can tell. Suppose that it is not positive definite at A, but in a neighborhood it is positive definite, everywhere else it is positive definite, that can happen. Okay, then A is a strict local minimum, that's fine, no problem. That can be shown here. Item D. Item D, what does it say? It says that if you can find two vectors x such that with respect to x, the Hessian matrix HA behaves like a negative semi-definite matrix with respect to x, that is x transpose HA x is negative, and with respect to y it is positive, y transpose HA this, then A is a saddle point. Okay, if you can find two, so then it basically says from A you can actually move a little bit in the direction of x and you can decrease the function, and you can actually move in the direction of y a little bit and you can increase the function. Then this point A is nothing, neither a minimum nor a maximum, so that's why it becomes a saddle point, because it is given to be a critical point from the beginning. So in particular, the item E will follow from D. What does E say? E says that if the matrix has a positive and a negative eigenvalue, then A is a saddle point. Why? Now, if it has a positive eigenvalue, it will have an eigenvector corresponding to it, and that eigenvector is your y. And if it has a negative eigenvalue, it will have an eigenvector corresponding to it, and that eigenvector is x. And you apply D. Okay. Okay. Let me D. What is it? D application. I mean the proof of D is similar to the proof of A. You will have to play around with this. I mean this lambda 1 by 2 and lambda 1 by 4. The proof of that is very similar to this actually. You will see over here. This one. You will have to play around with that. That because the second term goes to 0, it can be made at best in absolute value half of the first term. So therefore it cannot actually fully cancel because it is going to 0 and first one is fixed. So therefore what will happen is that it will essentially remain, I mean, take the same sign as the first term. So that's what it is saying. Okay, this one will be a long example, which I will do maybe I will do tomorrow. Maybe I will do this one tomorrow. You want to ask some question? You ask. Or do you want to ask any questions?
No, sir.
Okay. We'll have our exams as you have. I think some you people have written to me. So on Monday itself we will have a time. I will tell exactly after I frame the questions, and kind of I will have to judge myself how much time it should take. So accordingly I will tell whether it is like 4:15 to 6:15 or something like that. Not directly from 4, it should be maybe around 4:10 or something. But the time I will tell. I will post it in this. Maybe I think on Thursday or something. Okay. The syllabus I have already said you, so that is what it is. like you would be having about 4 questions of 5 marks each. So that's what, and I think it will take time because these are fairly computational. You compute, write neatly, and then post, and you send it to my email. This time it is not compulsory that I should take the quiz in this thing, so you can directly send it to my email, and then yeah, that is what we'll do. Shall I stop now?